Hello YouTubers, you're on a new episode of The Final Cut, and today I'm going to be going over my brief thoughts and review of the 2012 film VHS. Yeah, VHS is an anthology horror film done in a found footage format. Now, I haven't really been a fan of the found footage genre. I do love the original Blair Witch Project, and I was quite fond of the first two Paranormal Activity films, but other than that, I just think it's overused and just very cheap for the horror genre. It doesn't really give you a scare, it just gives you a headache. But VHS really brings a new twist upon the found footage format, and I like it. It's much like an anthology horror film. It's basically different short stories put together. And for any of you fans out there who grew up with like Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, you may enjoy VHS just for that anthology feeling of it. Does it all tie together? Not really. It starts out with tape 56, and it's kind of like a prologue. These robbers basically need to rob an item from this old guy's house, and there's this room filled with VHS tapes. One of them starts to play by itself, and that's how we're introduced to the different short films throughout the film. And it just goes one by one by one, while there's also another story going on within that house during the duration of the movie. So here is a quick list of the directors. The directors of VHS include Adam Wingard, Tape 56, David Bruckner, Amateur Night, Ty West, Second Honeymoon, Glenn McQuaid, Tuesday the 17th, Joe Swanberg, The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger. So yeah, those are the directors of each of the short films, and the first film after the Tape 56 prologue is called Amateur Night. Very scary. Pretty much a couple of guys decide to pick up some chicks and make an amateur porno. And they use kind of like a similar version of an early Google Glass. This guy has a camera on his glasses hidden. And it's done in that format. And that's one thing I have to add. They really do find unique ways to have a camera there. It's not like they're just filming everything. It's not like there's an imaginary camera that has to be there. There's a purpose for it. They were using it before the crazy things happened. So it adds more to the believability, much like Blair Witch Project, where you had a group of film students filming for a documentary, and then all the crazy stuff happens. So it's done in that area. It's not like the later on Paranormal Activities where they just come up with crazy excuses to have a camera there. Anyway, it's date night, and they pick up a couple of chicks. Some of them are knocked out, and one of the broads turns out to be a monster. It's like a vampire, and starts going after them. It is nuts and unexpected. And yeah, Amateur Night is very scary. And each of them have a different feeling, too, that adds to the anthology horror film. And this short ended up having a spin-off film released last year called Siren. It is very crazy, this short, because it's going one direction, then it completely goes another direction. And that's one thing I can say about this, is some of the short films are interesting, because you think you have it all figured out, and just when you think you do, it just turns when you least expect it. After that film is The Second Honeymoon. This one's a little bit of a slower start, but it's pretty much a newlywed couple, and they're on their second honeymoon. They're traveling, and somebody is stalking and filming them when they're asleep at night in their hotel room. Very suspenseful, and you don't know who it is. And I won't go too much into spoiler territory in this review, but it is an intriguing short film. And again, done in a found footage way. They're on their honeymoon, so they're just filming all their experiences as a newlywed couple. But when you see them asleep, somebody has a camera towards them and is like stealing stuff and everything. Like, it is just nuts. And it's just really bizarre. And that's one thing I have to say about this. You do have some supernatural elements, but a lot of it is real horror. It's just like horrific acts going on, crazy cults, that type of stuff. That really adds a more level of realism and grounds it along with a found footage look of the picture. After that is Tuesday the 17th. Pretty much a group of campers are camping and crazy stuff happens. It's much like Friday the 13th, but Tuesday the 17th. This one's a lot more exciting. The first two are kind of a slow start. This one is a little bit more like the Blair Witch Project meets Friday the 13th, and is very action-packed, very gory at the same time. Tuesday the 17th is really filled with a lot of surprises, and is probably the most exciting out of the films until the very last one of this VHS picture. And then after that, you have The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger. This one's a very bizarre short film. It's all done through a webcam interface. So she's talking to somebody, and everything is shown through a webcam interface. Pretty much the movie Unfriended, but more exciting. I really like this short, although it does get a little slow, and that's one thing I have to say about VHS as a whole. You have unique anthology format, you have short films that are very unique and different from one another, but some moments are slow within those films, and because of that, it makes the VHS film feel very slow at points where it could move a little bit faster and be more intriguing, be more interesting. So because of that, it's just a little bit tedious to watch after a while. So that one's probably like the slowest out of the bunch. It does have a good ending. Again, there's some twists, but after that you have 10/31/98. This one's a Halloween one. This one is where all the effects and budget went to. Wow, this one, it has the excitement factor that Amateur Night had as far as effects and just crazy stuff happening. And this one really surprised me. It really ends with a bang. After kind of going through some ups and downs throughout the film with different short stories, this one really closes it with a grand finale. And then we're back to tape 56. And that story gets concluded, and overall, the robbers inside the house watching the VHS tape is just the whole interface over the short stories. They're the reason why the short stories are going, but it's just kind of like an in-between moment and then beginning and end. Now again, it's not like Paranormal Activity where you just have a webcam filming everything where there normally wouldn't be a camera. Like, cameras here are done in a very realistic way. It's not like they just don't come out of nowhere. Like, there's a use for the camera, hence making the found footage aspect of the film feel more real. And I like it too, the VHS tapes. Now, 90s kids and before millennials, you know about VHS tapes. So we grew up with VHS tapes, so it's nice seeing that again, and then just having like the recorded dates and everything, like Panasonic and Kodak and stuff, and JVC, RCA. So that's nice having that done through a VCR and then the short film starting, hence with the name VHS. Overall, it's a very clever anthology horror film, and I think it's done much better than the first ABCs of Death and some other anthology films, and also some other found footage films. It kind of has the best of both worlds with like Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch Project, but it has more in line with Blair Witch while also having more violence and gore and nudity and language. It's a lot more rough than those movies, and I like it for that. It feels really real, and again, it's a different type of horror film. It's somewhat refreshing in a tired genre of found footage. I can't quite explain it. So if I had to give VHS a score, I would give it a 3 out of 5, an 8 out of 10, and a B+. VHS is not the best movie ever, not the best found footage horror film, but the short stories, while there are some slow moments, do have an interesting plot. They're intriguing, they're exciting, they're scary at times. And because of that, I think VHS makes the final cut. Now, they would learn eventually from what they did in the first film and perfect it in VHS 2. After VHS, you have VHS 2 and VHS Viral, which is released video on demand and then in cinemas. After that, you had a spin-off called Siren with the vampire lady from Amateur Night. I haven't seen it all the way through yet, but I really want to. But, yeah, out of the trilogy of VHS, VHS 2 is probably my favorite, but VHS is a very strong start, and while it does have its weak points, it is a promise to something even better with this series. And again, it doesn't feel cheap in the way that Paranormal Activity feels cheap. You really get your worthwhile out of this. Each short film feels like its own little entity, and I like that. It's like you got a group of filmmakers, got a group of short films that were in the horror genre, and just put it together in like a found footage format if it was like Outer Limits or Tales from the Crypt. And because of that, I love it. I love anthology stuff, American Horror Story, all the other horror stuff, and then found footage, and you put that together with some talented filmmakers, you really have something special and unique that is different from the rest of the bunch. VHS makes the final cut. 3 out of 5, 8 out of 10, and a B+. It is one of the most refreshing and original horror films of the past 5 years, and I enjoy it. I don't enjoy it as much as the sequel, but it is still a very good film. So if you are a fan of the horror genre and found footage material, go ahead and check out VHS. It is available to watch on Netflix and Amazon. Also, if you have seen VHS, let me know what's your favorite VHS film down below. What's your favorite short film out of any VHS film? Again, thank you for watching.